I'd like to call the, I guess what month is this? June? The June meeting of the POA Board in session. I'm Marty Inkrot, President of the board. And I just, as a reminder to everybody that's here, when you have a question or a comment to make, please come to the mic so that everybody watching on the live stream can hear. So with that, we'll start the meeting. We do have a quorum present. We have one board member missing, John Arguelles. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the May meeting? Pat? Do I have a second?
Second.
Rick? Any comments? With that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the board minutes as written, please raise your right hand. 6-0, passed. First item on the agenda is the audited financial statement. And Mickey White, I'll have you introduce the auditors, please.
So with us today are from the auditing firm Coulter and Justice are Josh Vahiak, which is one of the partners for the firm, and Whitney Kubeja, if I said that right, who did most of the work with us in our office and did most of the assembly of the work that's there.
You can actually have a seat there if you'd like. And just, do we have a chair for? Whitney?
I'll just do the talking. Can you hear me? Is the mic on?
No, press the button.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Todd Harms is the engagement principal responsible for the audit. Unfortunately, he had a conference this week and couldn't attend today, so I'm filling in. My responsibility on the job is the second partner review. So I do a second review to ensure that the audit is completed within our auditing standards and the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Whitney Kubeja here is the manager, and she oversees the day-to-day aspects of the audit from planning through completion. On behalf of Todd and Whitney, I want to take a minute and thank Chet Pillsbury, Mickey White, Jessica Johnson, and the rest of the association for their help for the audit. An audit is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of their time away from their everyday jobs to complete the audit. So we really appreciate it. I also want to thank the audit committee for their help on the audit. Todd and Whitney met with the audit committee several weeks ago, and they went through the results of the audit and the draft of the financial statements. And I'm pleased to report that the audit committee approved the draft of the financial statements. I want to note that on the financial statements, we have a unmodified or a clean opinion. That means that's the goal of the audit, is to say that our opinion, the financial statements are free of material misstatements. Does anybody have any questions on the financial statements or our audit that we did?
No, a copy of the audited statements were sent to all the board members for review prior to the meeting.
Very good. That's what we like to hear.
So if there are no questions, I'll make the motion that the board accept the 2022 audited financial statements as submitted.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second to accept the 2022 audited financial statements. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of accepting, please raise your right hand. 6-0, passed. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help. We'll see you around tax time, or the other side, the tax group.
Okay, with that, we'll go to Chet and the CEO report.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have several topics to go through today, and I'll try and be as quick as I can. A couple of things. I'll just start with the big question that usually comes up at these meetings is the Tenacity rebill. We're currently in the process of finalizing. Finalizing sounds a little permanent, and it's not. We're at a point now where we've put together a preliminary design and roadmap, for lack of a better word, to the rebuild. And we're taking two different tacks And in my town hall, the 29th, is that right? 29th? We will be talking about those, and the architect will be there, and we will have drawings to put up for everyone to see and evaluate. And it is, I think you're going to be interested by it and fascinated with the results. For all of you who are on that committee of Save Our Ninth Hole, there will be an option to save the ninth hole as well as an option to remove it or move it. I shouldn't say remove it. Move it to a different location and remodel it. The couple things that I need to throw in here as a caveat that I will continue to say, and you'll be sick of hearing it until the thing is built, and that is, the kiss of death in this whole process will be that I build you a building that's too small the day it opens, and there's not enough parking. So those are the things that we have to get our head around, and the space and all the things that go along with it and design to be sure that that is not the results. That's kind of been a problem in the past, and I am doing everything within my power to be sure that we don't end up there, if possible.
May I please? Just let me leap in there right on top of you. Thank you. Interrupting you again.
That really
Sue,
doesn't
been doing
sound
this my whole life.
exciting.
So,
Point of order? No, go ahead.
so I just want to bring up the point. And again, I follow social media very closely. I listen to the people that are on there. I read about their comments, and it amazes me the number of people that do not know the status of what this Tenacity build is after we've had a town hall meeting, multiple board meetings, et cetera, et cetera. Here's my point. At 4:00 p.m. on June the 29th at the community church, 4:00 p.m., June the 29th at the community church, you will have an opportunity to see what the property owners that are part of this committee and the committee members have come up with as a potential
Site plan.
whatever
A site plan, a potential site plan.
a site plan from an architect that has been interviewed by property owners, from the construction potential that has been developed by property owners. And on June the 30th, starting at about 6 a.m., the day after, people are going to be saying, you didn't look at parking, you didn't look at this, you don't even know where Tenacity is. The criticism is going to go berserk because they do not watch these videos, or they do not attend these meetings, and they do not ask the questions. I'm quite serious. Here's the opportunity for everybody in this community to attend this community church and listen to the architect and Chet and anybody else that's going to speak on what the Tenacity project is. It's your time to answer the questions, to voice your concerns, to issue your complaints, talking about money or whatever it is. Please show up. I'm not going to get on my knees here, Rick, and beg, but please show up. It's your opportunity as a property owner to come ask that question. And if you don't, well, I think everybody that did should have an opportunity to say, we went there, we asked the questions, here's a link to YouTube, go watch the video. That's what I wanted to say.
I was happy you got that off your chest, Pat.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. In that same vein, several people have asked, and I'm sure if you haven't asked, you're wondering, what's happened to the lawsuit with the insurance company, or I should say, what's happened to the discussion with the insurance company, which has now officially turned into a lawsuit with the insurance company, to have them pay for the remaining structure that could not be reused. It's been their premise from day one that we could use the basement foundation to rebuild, and in our studies we found that the basement is not only does not pass the requirements, the state requirements for building code back then, it doesn't pass it now either. And so we've gone to the insurance company to have them pay for that as well, and it's now been filed at the state as a lawsuit. So if any of you run across that, I just wanted you to know, yep, that's where it's at. And it is looking good in our favor. I don't really have any heartburn over this. I think it's just it's a dance we have to go through, for lack of a better way of putting it. And the insurance company will then be put in a position where they have to pay, and it'll be over with, and we'll move on to the next one. We'll see. I mean, nothing is for sure until the gavel drops, so we'll see how that goes. The next thing that is on everybody's mind, including mine, is recycle bins. The Loudoun County has yet to deliver the recycle bins to us. We're still using what we had in the past, which I know is a problem for everyone. I've spoken with the mayor, and he assures me that they're in the process of trying to retain the correct size for us. And they do have a vested interest. They say they're doing it us for free, but they actually sell the cardboard and make money on it. So they want our cardboard. They want some of our other stuff because they are making some financial gain on it. So it's not as altruistic as it may sound. So they're in the process of getting those. Once they have them, we will immediately send out a telegram or anything of that nature so that everyone is aware that they are there and now operational. One of the other things that goes along with the trash is that it has become apparent, and most of you have been and still are upset about the cost and the change of cost with our friends at Republic. But one of the things that has come up is it appears that the only way I'm ever going to get you a better price is to what I'm referring to as reverse bill. And this may be controversial and it may be a problem, and I'm not telling you it's happening, but I'm telling you it's one of the options I'm going to have to pursue and then get the board to vote on. And that is, instead of each individual homeowner paying for their trash to the trash company, I would go out and get a bid for 5,900 homes or however many we have, and the POA would pay the bill. They would only be billing one person, and then we would bill the homeowners through their water bill. And by doing this, I can reduce the cost significantly to the homeowners. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is that all of you would be getting that bill whether you use the trash company or not. So those are the things that we're working through. Now, please don't leave this room and say, Chet said we're all going to have to take on our trash. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's an option that I'm looking at to reduce the actual cost of having trash pickup. I've talked to both Loudoun County and Lenoir City, who both have just recently changed their trash pickup for all the same reasons we are. And the only way they were able to reduce that cost is by doing exactly what I just described to you. Lenoir City bills their company one bill, they pay it one bill, and then all the residents of Lenoir City have it added to their power bill. In this case, it was the power bill, not the water and sewer. And so, and it's a separate line item. It's not thrown in there buried. It's literally a separate line item for it. So I don't know if that's going to be the way it works out, but I wanted you to know that ahead of time and have that in your mind as one of the options, because I'd much rather tell you that and it be $18, $20, is it a week or a month, something like that? And, or rather than tell you it's now going to be 85 and you have to pay it personally. So, or directly, I should say. It also gives us leverage in the rules and how the service you get and just a bunch of other things, because one of the items are right now, and many of you may not realize this, we're the intermediary. All we're doing is setting up the process for you. You as the homeowner are paying the bill directly to them. You're the one who has the voice to say, no, we don't like it, or we do like it. And that presents a problem. It doesn't really give me a lot of teeth, other than I'm going to fire you. Well, big deal. You're going to fire me. Now, as it turns out, a lot of people are leaving Republic because they're individuals. And one of the things the association and I both agree on, the board and I both agree on, is we do not want 47 trash companies coming in here and picking up trash. It never ends well, and it becomes a nightmare for our roads, for the individual homeowners. We end up having trash cans on the side of the road every day of the week because everybody's on a different schedule. And so it's just one of those things that we're trying to mitigate as quickly as we can.
Hey, Chet, one thing
Yep.
on that, when we do go out to bid, one option to look at is having all the trash bins on the same side of the road, thereby reducing, basically cutting in half the amount of travel these trucks have to do, because now they have to go down every street twice if they're using the automated arms.
Yep.
Back when they had people in the back, they could just do both sides at once, but that might be a cost reduction. I mean, you just say the rule is you put it on the opposite side of as the mailbox. I mean, it's a slight inconvenience. You got to walk another 12 feet for some people.
Yeah, I don't, that's definitely an option we can pursue, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, running down the list here. Do you, this is really a kind of a small group of people that I'll be talking to, but I wanted to bring it up as one of the things that I've been pursuing. We've had lots of questions about people who have TRDA land in front of their property that prevents them from building docks, and other people have TRDA land that prevents them from doing certain things, and I've looked at the idea of leasing those. Well, one of the groups, which is a small group in Kahidi, have been trying to get permission to either clear the underbrush or even take down some trees between them and the water. But both TRDA and TVA have told them no, because the Cherokee Nation does not want to be able to see the houses from the Sequoia Museum and that sort of thing. Now, I have to admit, I chuckled when the first time I heard that, and they didn't perceive the humor in it. But anyway, moral of the story is that the island between the Sequoia Park and Kahidi has completely grown up now to block any view of that whole peninsula of Kahidi, period. I have a meeting with the Cherokee Council to get their opinion, because if their opinion is still no, it is a waste of time to go to TVA and TRDA and anything else, because the Cherokee Nation will rule that roost, and there's a period at the end of the sentence. So if they say yes, then I can go to the TVA and TRDA and get them to have a ruling on it, because their reasoning through all of this has been the Cherokee Nation said no. And so if I can get rid of that, then we have a game to possibly allow them to at least clear that area and be able to maintain that waterfront. One of the other concerns is you can't, by law anyway, you can't do anything to that shoreline. And so a lot of that shoreline has been washed away because it's in an open bay where lots of people are in there all the time. So there's a lot of wave action, and it's deteriorating that beach completely. And so the homeowners are saying, well, at least let us put riprap out there or something to stop the erosion. Well, they can't do that at all. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. And this is true in other places, but that's one that's been going on for a very long time. But at the end of the day, we're looking at what our options are. I can't tell you what the end results will be, because there are a lot of moving parts. One of them happens to be the specifics of our lease with TRDA. All the $400,000 a month we pay for our lease. That is there's a lot of caveats in that we have to get through. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. We've had there's been discussion in the last few board meetings about KPIs and evaluating the staff, and how do we evaluate the staff. When I first came on board, the board tasked me with looking at the staff and evaluating, do we have the right number of staff, are the processes correct, and all of that. So we've taken, and I say we because this has not been a Chet project, this has been an executive staff project. And one of the things that I did was go down, and I think I talked about this a little bit in the last board meeting, and sit with Public Works, see what they did, why they did it. A couple of things that have come out of that is one improvement, or one fascinating result, was I brought in the guys who read the meters and the girls in accounting who write your bills and send them out to you, and had them have a conversation with each other. And it was nirvana. They all realized, oh my God, that's why you have that problem. Or from the accounting side, oh my God, that's why you give us that information. We didn't know. And so there was this communication. And to put it in probably language that is the most explicit, maybe not the most nice, but it's the most explicit. In May, we had to have 500 rereads of meters. In June, excuse me, I have it backwards. In April, we had 500 meter rereads where they had to go back out and read the meter to be sure those numbers were right. In May, we had 100. And so far in June, we're going to even beat that number. And so it's affected how we operate. A couple of the other things that were brought up that I didn't realize and the billing folks didn't kind of put together is the meter readers have to go to Kahiti for read half of Kahiti and then come back and read part of this community, the next billing cycle. They have to go out to Kahiti and read the other half of Kahiti and then come back here and read another group of the meetings. Well, that's just crazy in terms of timing and waste of time and how we do it and why we do it. So we're working on cleaning that up. Not so much that it will change anybody's bills, but it will make him far more efficient to go to Kahiti and work all the way through Kahiti and get those done, and then come back and work on this property, or vice versa, however that plays out. It's just, it's just better functioning. So to that end, all of the things that we're working on is trying to improve how we function and why we do the things we do. So that actually is moving ahead. One of the things I was going to let Mitzi speak to a little bit is I started doing, and she and I have conducted these, and they've been, in my mind, horribly successful, really, really successful, is have employee roundtables. And maybe horribly is probably not the right word. Greatly is successful. They've just been really, really good. The employee roundtables, we've had 3 so far. And I'll let Mitzi kind of update you on that because I think how they function and all of that is really great. Go ahead, Mitzi.
Thank you. As Chet mentioned, we've had 3 already, so for a total of 32 employees. We've had representatives from every department that we have. We had 10 folks the first meeting, 10 folks the second meeting, and 12 at the third one. And we feed them at every one of these. So that's a great way to get them to come in there, and we let them know we're going to have them for a couple of hours, but we'll certainly feed them a good lunch. But what Chet and I have learned is there's a common theme at each of these, and the roundtables are meant for them to be able to tell us anything. If it's, I don't like this about the job, or I love this about the job, but I certainly could do better if the process changed, and here's why, and here's how. And once one person starts talking, it seems like the other people that start talking, the theme has been the same for each of these. So just as an update, the first one, the theme seemed to be communications and how we as the executive team and directors can do a better job with our communications. One of the examples that was given was a decision that was made in an open board meeting, and one of the staff members actually had it on their computer kind of listening in the background, and she knew that she would have to field phone calls because of that decision. It was Republic Trash or one of those things. But we had not informed them beforehand about the discussion and what the outcome was and that type of thing. So, that really opened our eyes. Okay, yeah, we need to do a better job of communicating all the way throughout the organization. The second brainstorming session, the theme was training, and how some of the folks felt like right out of the gate, we should do a better job with employee orientations and just training in general. And I'll give you one good example that came out of there. It was a very young guy, probably just graduated high school in May. And we had given him the job duty to do traffic control, if you want to call it that.
Directing traffic, yeah.
Directing traffic with a sign, and he said, and I was scared and I was nervous and I know how to do it now. But he said, we should do proper training on just things that some people might find silly because you've done it your whole life. And I thought, gosh, yeah, I have a 20-year-old, and I can't imagine giving her a traffic sign and say, go stand in 444. Because it can be scary and dangerous. So that was just a theme that day. And then the third meeting was about equipment needs and tools, and just various tools that would be helpful, make their job a little more efficient, make them get through things quicker and easier. And so since those meetings, Russell, our human resource manager, he's in the back here today, he puts together an Excel spreadsheet, and for every process or procedure or suggestion or idea, as simple as it may be, all the way to, real detailed, he assigns a champion, and that champion may be one of our directors or a, person that is just in the area recreation advisory committee member. Depending on what it is, we try to assign a champion, and we get with those people and say, here was something that came out of a round table. We don't give any names. We, try to keep it as anonymous as possible and say, we want to look at this. How can we fix this? What can we do to make it better, to get this implemented? And so far, we've been very successful. And then there are some that we just have to tell them, well, there's a reason we don't do it that way, or we can't do that, and here's why. Or maybe it's just not in the budget. We'll look at doing that type of thing later. So we feel like they're very successful. And so kudos to Chet for letting us do this and getting these folks involved. And I know when they come into the meetings, they probably in the back of their mind think, oh, here we go, another one of these, meetings that's going to waste my time. But I think for the most part, everybody's been very appreciative, and they know that their voice has been heard. And so, hopefully by July or August timeframe, we will have seen every employee. We'll just continue doing these on a bi-weekly schedule moving forward, so.
And also, I need to say thank you again to Russell, because initially, this was his suggestion to think about whether we could do this or not. And so it was the right choice for us to move in that direction. It was a great idea, and we've made tremendous amount of feedback. It's amazing what people will say when you feed them. It's pretty interesting. Beth, did you want to give us an update on land management? And the other thing that I wanted you to talk about was TOC.
So the bids came back on TOC, and just to refresh your mind, TOC is, I'm on.
Can't hear you.
Kevin, can you turn me up? Turn me up. All right, is that better? All right,
Yeah,
great.
there we go.
So TOC, which is Tennessee Orthopedic Clinic, if you all were think back, we talked about this last year and a couple of months ago. They approached us about joining and adding on to the Wellness Center. So we've been in the process of working on plans for that. It went out to bid. The bids came back in a range from $2.8 million up to $3.6 million. The amount of the building was not really a surprise to anyone, but the current interest rate was. Currently, a locked-in rate is 7.5%. And so we're kind of going back to the drawing board and looking at other funding options with that group of doctors, as well as entertaining maybe shrinking the footprint from what they originally wanted. So that's just a quick update on that. Still in the works. No decision has been made. We'll be back to you all with more information when we have it. We did go back out on an RFP for the 3 parcels of land that the board approved for us to seek a developer on. That was P38, which is off Poplar Springs, and P2, which is where the community docks are in Kahidi, and then on the back side of Kahidi, we call that P4 on those 3 parcels, and those are due back the 1st of August. So I'll let you all know that month if we had any bids come in. And currently, Mitzi and I are working on some ideas for covered storage and where that could go inside Tellico Village and getting pricing, and we'll be bringing that back to the board next month. And that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, just to add to that is that one of the things that we're trying to do is that we all take, and when I say we all, I mean all of the executive staff, take our responsibility to pay off the bill of buying that land by selling it as quickly as we can. So that's the whole point of even bringing this up in the discussion, is to let you know we've not lost sight of that requirement and that responsibility.
So before we get off of that, Beth, how many different parties was that RFP sent to?
There's about 18 different builders on that list, builders and developers.
Developers, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions for me, board? Staff, did I miss anything since I missed something last time? Nope, good? Perfect, wonderful. Any questions from the crowd while I'm here? Hey, yep. Wait, no, you're a previous board member, you can't speak. Yeah, previous would be the correct.
Previous. Now I'm just a community member.
There we go.
So, and to that end, recently, it's been brought to my attention that you had conversations with TDOT in regard to the, back up here so I'm not, okay, dealing with that. With TDOT in regard to 444 and Mialacqua, and that they had done an evaluation that said a traffic light is a no-go, but a traffic circle would work. Here's the thing, and this is why I want people to hear this. I'd like you to expound on that in terms of
Sure.
the would they, could they, when? Because there are folks, I know it's hard to believe, that think that sucker's going through. So
I'm sorry, say again?
there are people that believe that it is a done deal and that it's
Oh,
happening.
roger that, okay.
Yeah.
So, number one, I'd like to see a show of hand of the board's members who voted on putting a circle in at Mialacqua and the other street. Oh, wait, none. Okay, so then it's never been proposed, and here are the background to it, and thank you again for, I'm serious, thank you for bringing it up, because I meant to bring it up last time and did not. I did speak with TDOT about several areas, and there's more than just that one I need to bring up. What TDOT said was that we did a study, and as she pointed out, we're not qualified for a traffic light, but we do qualify for a circle. Now, there are lots of people who say, yay, circles are better than lights because they don't stop traffic dead in the water. They allow them to at least flow, but they slow them down. The other people say, this is Tellico Village. Do you think people could actually navigate a circle? They'll be driving over the middle of that thing. And so those are all the things that I've had to hear. So where we actually are is I've gone to the mayor of Loudon, who happens to be the chairman of the state traffic commission? Roads Commission, sorry. State Roads Commission, buddy, and requested that he put us on the list for funding to build this circle. And that was actually a suggestion from TDOT. And so right now, the POA has no plans at this point to expend any funds in that direction unless the state comes back to us with an option for funds and that sort of thing. And further, we can't do it without their approval anyway. So, yes, it's a state road. So, and the odds are, because it has been approved by TDOT for that we have a pretty good chance of getting funding for that. The second area that I brought up was where you leave here today. You'll notice that, and Beth laughed at me the last time I used this expression, but it becomes Christians and Lions at that 44 exit out of here off of Sequoia, or if you're coming from Maple Hill. It's just a nightmare getting out of here. And so that was the other place where I requested that, and in this case, again, the mayor of the county has to request this from TDOT, and he has requested that TDOT do a traffic study on this area here as well to see if we qualify for a light. And I don't know if he'll come back with a circle answer or nothing at all. I don't know. But that has been requested, and they are moving forward with that. Again, none of these are done deals because they're on a state road. We don't get to wave our magic wand and make that happen. We have to wait for their approval and the progress that goes along with that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I would have walked right by that, and I didn't realize that everybody thought that was a done deal. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add, they're currently doing a study on 444 in the Chattooga neighborhood.
Yes.
They're doing a traffic count.
Yeah, they're doing a traffic study now. And I can only say anecdotally that I moved here last year in September, and I, as a fact, can tell you that 44 is not the same traffic level as it was even then. Today, it's way worse than it was then in terms of number of vehicles and all of that. So I hope you all know that I really take you seriously when you're calling me and talking to me about how bad the traffic is. It really is bad. I get it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. I'm glad somebody knows what they're doing. All right, can you get them up there? One of the options that I wanted to bring to the board in one of my reports is a little incident we had this last week, and it's actually been kind of ongoing. And somebody from the HOA did me the kindness of kind of putting these together. We won't go through all of them, but there's a few of them I'd like to show. Go to the next one if you would. Can we? How many of you I guess it was this last weekend, noticed that we had campers and a bonfire and a campfire on the side of Clear Creek? Well, we have pictures, but we did. And so I called TRDA and said, do you guys allow this? And several other people did as well. And the answer is no. Now, this is the walkway that's been created from Clear Creek Road all the way down to the water. That's TVA land and TRDA land. It is not even common element. So they are indeed trespassing. That's the first thing. next one, okay, we're gonna go this way. Is it not bringing it up, sorry. Okay. I think that's referred to as user headspace. There we go. Wait, go back, go back. Now, this is the exact opposite side of that street, where the homeowner, because he had a tree or two blow down, he's cut all of that area. The storm did not blow down all of his shrubs and everything else there. And you'll notice the interesting little path coming down. So one of the tasks that we're going to have is go back to that homeowner and say, by the way, even though you may be using the excuse of a storm, oh yeah, go back up so we see these. Here's our camper. There was there's the, well, it's a bad picture, but there's the fire going on. And in a lot of scenarios, the good news about all this is it brought up a lot of things. Number one, it's illegal to have a fire in an area that is not designated to be a camping spot, period. That's TVA's rule, and it is a prisonable offense. Is that a word? Prisonable? Yeah, okay. So that's one. Two, they're also camping in a non-camping area, which is, again, against the rules and law of TVA. And they are definitely within the 820 line. Now, they had to cross TRDA's land, which, again, I ask, is that trespassing? And they say, absolutely, because that's not part of our lease agreement. That's none of those things. This does not belong to us at all. That's how they got down there. And if you go up, this is what's coming down from the opposite side of the street from that home. Now, what we're going to have to do here, and this is a question for the board, my plan is to go to that homeowner and say, look, you shouldn't have done this. And they're going to say, well, there was a storm and we had to cut them down. And I'm going to have to say, it is common area. If there is a storm and it blows down these trees, don't touch it. It's Public Works' job to go in there and clear those broken down limbs. And that's it, period. It is not yours as a homeowner's. I'm going to pause there. Board, any concerns, any questions? Moving on. The next thing is I'm going to go to Public Works and say, boys, we have to plant trees. Big ones. And so and they can, and again, now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because it is true, the storm did blow down some trees in that area. I know that to be a fact because I was there the day they came down, and then I went back and magically they were sawed off and cut off, and I called Public Works, hey, good job, guys. And they go, what? What are you talking about? Yeah. Homeowner did it. So this is where it comes down to. We're planting new trees. They will be tall, and they will be guaranteed to block your view. And if you touch them, it's $500 a tree. That's all. If you want higher, I can go higher, but that's where I started.
No. So as a board member, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, I'm going to charge all of you to go out and buy trees to replace something that a homeowner cut down. No. Charge him.
The problem is, and this is where I agree with you and disagree with you all in the same breath. Had there not been a storm there, had there not been trees knocked down, I would have no argument. In fact, I would have already done it. Here's the bill. We're putting trees in, you're paying for them. And if the board decides that's what they want to do here, I'll do it. But the guy has an argument, whether he acted inappropriately or not.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to be the good guy. So let me take the adversarial approach here. I'm going to charge every property owner because he's got an argument that the wind blew it down. Prove which ones blew it down, otherwise replace all of them. It's on him to prove it.
I buy that.
Not you, not property owners. It's on him.
Or her.
Or her, or them. Doesn't matter.
So do we have any inkling which trees blew down?
Yeah, you see the two.
I see the three stumps.
The two trees that are together, not the other stump, but the two trees that are together, those are the ones that blew down. Yeah, we have pictures of the proverbial before and after. The other ones he just took down, and there were trees all the way up that he took down. And so here's the problem I have, and I hate to say it this way, but we're going to have to make examples of somebody somewhere. And this is an example of a homeowner taking it into their own hands to clear property to improve their view and blame it on a storm. And it's not their job to maintain that area. It is the property of the association, not that homeowner. And it's, well, I guess I should say it's the property of all the homeowners here, not just that one homeowner. And therefore, we've got to put it back the way it was, and we have to make that impression upon them. They can't do it again. Now, if you want me to do what Pat said, I'm all about it. But I am trying to be the good guy and say, you know, I'll go either way with you on this. We have pictures of which ones fell down. We'll show those to him. But the rest of that stuff, we know he cut down. So I'm asking the board, how would you like me to handle it? Because we're about to set a precedent in how we move forward.
So you split the baby. We replaced the trees that, you know, that
The
the
two.
storm blew down, because we would have done that anyway.
Yep.
And we charge him for the ones that the storm didn't blow down.
I can support that.
Okay, I got a few heads nodding.
Yeah, that was Solomon-like.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yes, sir.
Come to the mic,
Come to the
please.
mic.
Is that our property?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
It's, our property doesn't end at the top of the hill.
Oh, it does end at the top of the hill. He's got a backyard. I'm not showing his backyard.
That's TVA property.
No,
It's not below the 820, is it?
no. Go back a picture. Go up a picture. Let me make this. Yeah, this one. This is the edge of Clear Creek Road. From here to the water is TVA and TRK. Go back up, yeah, here.
Who owns the road?
This is the, I don't know. TRDA. Their property. So, from here up is ours.
Different area.
If it, and here's the problem. If it isn't ours and it's TRDA, then there's a bigger issue.
We do own a, I'll let me get on here. Yelling at you when I'm not doing the right thing. We do own a strip of common property there. I'm looking at it on the property assessor's website. Some of it is, the lower part of the hill is TRDA, and they agree they're interested in going after people as well who have been cutting down trees on their right-of-way. But we do have a strip of common property as well.
And my understanding is when they get involved, they're going to make them or fine them for cutting down the trees and replace the trees. And he hasn't brought that up yet, because we have no fining rules.
And I will say there's other places in the village that we've identified that this has happened as well, and so those property owners, if they haven't been talked to, they will be soon. And then this is a good reminder for everyone that we do have a work on common property permit. If you want to work on common property, you need to turn in a permit to ACC and get permission to do so. And if they give you permission, very specifically that you want to remove underbrush, that sort of thing, at least it's on file. So just a reminder, those are available on the POA website.
Okay. Yep.
Push the button. Yes.
Is there anything specific in the covenants that would cover this, that would make us absolutely clear?
There are rules, but there is no, as we are having this conversation, there are no fixed fines for that. But
Well,
because
now,
it's
This wouldn't be
TRDA
a
land,
fine, though, would it?
I'm sorry?
This would not be a fine, it would just be the cost of
Replacing the trees. At this point, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, TRDA has a fine and the cost of the trees. We do not. It's just the cost of the trees.
Okay.
But we do have the opportunity to bill the homeowner for work. we did.
Absolutely, yeah. The whole 9 yards there, yes. Yes, sir.
Can I change the subject, or are we still talking about trees?
No, let's, if you're changing the subject, hang on a minute. Let's get through this. and then you can-
I want to ask about your CEO report, but I don't want to talk about trees any longer, but if you want to continue to do that, we can do that.
Okay, so, pause. You stay there. Does the board have any other further comments on the tree issue? I'm bringing this up for the first time, so that's why I'm kind of holding.
How soon are you going to take action?
As soon as I can get trees.
So what about the rest of the pictures in this series?
Okay, well, some of them you can go down. This has nothing to do with this discussion, but they're complaining about the signs that TRDA has up there that you can't read them, that shows the rules and that sort of stuff. That's not our problem. This is our problem. These two pictures I kind of like, so we can go to these. Our no wake zone buoys that I am told so far, I'm waiting for T-BART to get back to me, that those are our responsibility. The POA owns those no wake buoys. And if that is the case, we need to build it in our budget and consistently take them out and replace them. We have many that are half floating because they got holes in them, or you can't read the no wake zone sign on them. So it's just a white cork out there bobbing around. So those are things that we need to do. And if you go down to the Poplar Ramp, this is not ours to deal with, but I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, somebody pulled a boat up and left it. They'll have to take it out. And
It actually sunk. It was sunk.
it's sunk.
It was sitting there for a while.
So that one's there for fun. Now, back to your question.
Are the audited reports?
Your name?
My name is Rick Dram.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, move ahead.
Are the audited reports available to the public for public viewing or for POA member viewing?
They will be by in the morning on the POA website on the finance page.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Beth, you got to make sure that the draft is removed and the date for subsequent events is listed, so it may not be by the morning, but the next couple of days.
Well, a couple days.
And Rick, Rick, I think, I don't know how many years, a decade's worth of audited reports are there as well.
Well, I don't care about what happened last decade. I'd just like to see the
I'm just
2022
bringing it up
report.
for general
Okay,
information.
thank you.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate
that we have to do.
Okay. How about the Tenassi architectural report? Is that available for POA
I don't
member
have it,
view?
so I don't know why you would have it.
Okay,
We're-
but
we-
we'll be privy to it on June 29th, is
Yeah,
that correct?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
no, that's I'm saying. That's what that whole town hall is going to be about. And
Well,
we're
I
going to have
understand that.
prints and everything that you can see there. You'll be able to ask questions about it. Why did we choose this? What's the number on that?
Well, Pat alluded to the fact that members have already reviewed this, so.
No, I did not. No, I
Okay,
did
so
not.
what was your
I
message? You
said
said
committee
that-
members,
The-
we've been working on this.
the-
Okay,
Tenassi
committee members have been working on it.
Yes.
You actually said, and not to get
And
picky,
we
but
have
you said
property-
homeowners have been reviewing this.
I said,
they're
we-
Well,
on
I
the
wanted, I
committee.
just
We
wondered
said-
what homeowners have reviewed it.
no, I said
Those would be members of the
property
committee.
owners have been on the committee.
Great,
And they have reviewed it. That's the
okay,
homeowners that have
all
reviewed
right,
it.
well,
Yeah, so because
again,
the committee has
I
got
think it's
more than
No,
important to
no
clarify.
nefarious activities going on here.
I'm not saying, I'm not suggesting
The
that. I'm
implications are
saying, I
those.
just wondered whether it was going to be available
Yes, sir.
for review, okay?
Absolutely.
And can I ask have there been any other alternatives to that beside the one architectural submission?
Well, there's going to be two architectural submissions.
Two architectural
Yes.
submissions. You mean for the clubhouse, different sizes of the clubhouse, or are we?
More in line with different positions.
You mean
because-
between the ninth green being eliminated, or?
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
Well, I understand. Okay, so that's two submissions, but there haven't been any other submissions. There's not any other So I'm just wondering.
In other words, are you asking, did we select more than one architect to do the same job?
No, he's asking if
no,
we have
I'm
two
asking
different
if there
versions.
are alternatives that homeowners will be able to vote upon, or
No, homeowners won't vote on this at all.
Okay, so this is really a done deal.
No,
is
it's not.
basically.
No, it's not.
So
Why would
you're
you
going to
say
get.
that?
So wait a minute. You basically have one or two alternatives. You're going to listen to homeowner input with those, but no other alternatives are going to be considered. Is that what I'm
But a number of
hearing?
alternatives were considered at the beginning of this whole process.
That-
We-
that-
we-
that-
And
yeah,
that
that's-
was all reviewed with people. It was in board meetings. It was
There was
Sent
a
out to
town
the
in the
hall.
community.
telegram. It was all
There was-
over out
There
there.
was a town hall meeting where the preliminary first couple, I think 3, were put up on the overhead.
And yeah, everybody's had a chance to see the options on that. Now, I need to wade in here and say, if your question is, when we show this on the 29th, has the decision been made? The answer to that is no. Why would I bring it to you just to wave my magic wand and be funny in front of everybody about the new buildings? No, I want your opinion. I want you to say, that's beautiful, or that's ugly. What were
So
you
the
thinking?
cost-
Or
so
there's
the-
not enough room, or there is enough room. All of those things are going to be talked about.
So the cost of this will then be reported over and above what the insurance company will pay.
Okay.
Is that?
This will be number 6th time. I have said.
Chet,
in every
I don't
meeting-
think, I don't appreciate the fact that you're being sarcastic. I'm asking
but I'm
honest
asking-
questions that I
those are
think the
fair
homeowners
questions.
would like to know.
But what I'm getting at is, I have stated this at least 6 times. We have
Okay, then
4
restate it for a 7th then.
Okay, I'm good with that answer. I'll say it at 9 or 10 if I have to. That's okay. But there is approximately $4 million coming from insurance, and we have approximately $4 million that has been set aside for amenities. It's about $8 million. That's been our budget from day one. Is that going to change? I don't know yet, but that's been our budget. I've never deviated from that once. Those are the numbers, always has been.
And
Okay.
why do we not know? And that is because we have not yet presented it to the property owners. That's coming on June the 29th. Back to my interrupting Chet earlier, here's the opportunity for every property owner to hear those 6 things that we've been getting across. Here's the budget, here's the amount, here's the people on it, over and placing the parking potential loss of a green, expanded parking lot, next door activity, all of this has been going on. But now, right now, today, people come up and go, how much was the budget? It's been explained. Who's on the committee? Why aren't property owners on the committee? When are you going to review tenacity? All this is going on. And Rick, today, this is just one of the things I keep up with. I haven't counted this table back here. There are 31 people in here, property owners. 12 of those people are on committees. So there are less than 20 people in this room watching this. And when we go out, we'll be lucky to have another 100 people in the committee. There are 9,000 people here. And of those 100, they're going to go out and say, they didn't tell me about tenacity. They didn't tell me about a June 29th meeting. Wrong. We have. We are. Please show up. I'm sorry, Rick. I put my hands together. Please show up. I'm asking the people in the community to show up.
Well, Mr. White, I think I
No,
have
my
heard.
name's Pat, Rick. Come on.
I've heard this $4 million expenditure in addition to the $4 million, and I've heard that number probably 6 times. You're right, and I realize that you have property owners that are on this committee, but I think, just my opinion, but I think there's a great number of property owners that are concerned with an additional $4 million over what's being received by the insurance company. And that's the only number I have heard ever since Tenacity burnt down, was we've got to spend $4 million more than what the insurance company is going to give. In other words, we're going to have to tap into our reserves for $4 million. Now, you can call me a heretic or whatever you want to. I've been called that before and worse. But the fact of the matter is, I think there are a lot of property owners that are very concerned about that, and we will, I hope, I will voice my opinion and my objection to spending $4 million when there is such a great shortfall of reserves in the, that are to be appropriated. So that's just my opinion.
That's a fair opinion.
But I've spoken to a number of people who have indicated that they're really uncomfortable with spending $4 million more when we're always told how short we are in the
And I
in
am
the
too,
reserves.
and you talk to the people
So-
on this, you talk to the people on this board and on that committee, and they are as well. I don't want to
Okay.
spend $4 million.
Okay.
It's going to come out of the reserves. It's going to come out of something that we cannot do because we don't have the $4 million. But as Chet said, you got an opportunity to either rebuild, put it back exactly the same way it was, and we've been doing the parking studies while it's burnt down. There's not a parking space over there on a sunny day. There's a golf pro sitting there. He can't find a parking space. We're parking in the fire lanes at a building that doesn't even exist anymore. And that's not including boaters and people at a restaurant, that parking lot has either got to expand or you got to make Tenassi smaller than it was. And that's where the property owners need to expound, this is my idea, this is my feeling. That's why he's going on stage
Well,
on June
it
the
doesn't cost
29th.
us $8 million to build a parking lot. So there's a lot more money going into this thing than just parking. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's all I've got to say. I might be all
appreciate it,
wet.
and I
Maybe
hope-
everybody
have a
disagrees
lot of
with me,
business.
but
This is
maybe
town
we'll
hall.
No, the
have
town's
a
hall
chance to
discussion.
see
Bring
on
that
June
back.
29th that I think you're going to find some people find this objectionable.
And that's
Okay, thank
great,
you.
and I hope that,
Thank you
and
for
I'm
this
sincere.
opportunity.
I'm sincere when I say it. I hope you do come to the town hall and voice that opinion.
Please.
I just want to add a little bit to go along with that really quick about the town hall. This town hall will be looking at a master plan. We are not going to have any numbers yet to present on the actual budget. Just want to make sure no one's expecting that we're going to roll out, here's how much it's going to cost. We are just looking at a master plan. We will have another town hall down the road when we get to that phase where we would hope to come back with what it's going to cost.
Now,
Just
Mr.
wanna
Chairman,
set
could
that out
I
there.
ask you to proceed with the agenda rather than to us go off into Tenassi? Because we're going to be doing that on June 29th.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing, and it's kind of buildable on what Rick's saying a little bit, but the whole idea of these town halls and all these different discussions that we've had is to try to keep everyone informed every step along the way. Not to pull any surprises at any point, not to say, hey, look at this beautiful building that we've decided we're going to build. No, that the whole idea is take this step by step, communicate along the way. Like Beth said, as far as it's gotten so far is basically step one, looking at potential site plans. We don't even have anything as far as the building itself, just approximate size. Then you throw a per square foot charge against that, and then that's how we come up with the numbers. So that's as far as it's gotten to this point. So the whole idea is to communicate with everybody all along the way, gather input along the way, see what kind of dissent there is, if there is any, as well as agreement. We're not going to be able to please everybody. We're going to do the best we can to come up with what is best for this community. So with that, we're going to continue on with the agenda because the whole Tenassi discussion should take place on the 29th at the board meeting. That's why we have a separate session for that. So with that, let's move on. Are you finished, Chet, with the CEO report?
Yeah, my only added thing to that is Marty, I hope that nobody here, and I know it's the word you used, and I don't know that you meant it that way, but I don't perceive the gentleman who just spoke showing dissent. He was showing his opinion of how we spend the money, which I think is an appropriate thing to talk about.
No, most definitely.
And so I don't want anybody to feel like somehow, the only reason I made my remark is I feel some days, and maybe that's just my own personal stupidity, but I feel like I say the same thing over and over again, and I want to raise my hand and say, is anybody listening? Because I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean that like I'm trying desperately to give you the same information accurately every time. And I want people to hear that and see that. That's the only reason why I get passionate about that, is because I don't want you to ever think that we're doing something shady, Ray. It's just not, it's not my deal at all.
And Chet, the other thing is that there have been numbers thrown around based upon square footage. There has been no discussion or motion made with regard to what the board supports. You may have some board members that think 8 million is okay. You may have some board members that think 4 million is the right number. So we're a long way away from committing to any kind of spending for a Tenassi clubhouse.
Okay, with that, let's move on. Public Works, Clayton.
You're up, boss.
Put your
Turn your mic on, mate.
I will try my best to keep it short to try to get us back on track. First, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to come in here and talk about what Public Works and ACC is doing, just to have the opportunity to brag on our guys and what they're doing. But want to just give y'all some information on ACC. For 2023, the largest house we have permitted year-to-date is 7,313 square feet. The smallest we permitted in 23 is 1,650 square feet. So, you know, what I like about and love about Tellico Village is when you look at home sizes, you know, you don't drive down the street and just see cooker cutter homes. And you know what? The Tellico Village is open to a huge array of people. You know, if you want a smaller home or you want a big home, you know, that's one thing that makes Tellico Village so great, is it's welcoming to everyone. So, that is amazing. I think that's great. Year to date, we're slightly down from where we were last year, which we knew that was going to happen. Year to date in 2023, we've built 99 homes. Last year at this time, we had permitted 153. But just as we've always seen, when building permits start slacking off, miscellaneous permits pick up. So we're seeing miscellaneous permits start to pick up. So, you know, I figure that'll be a trend that we'll see throughout the year and then next year, because we start seeing a lot of big remodels going on. The average heated square feet for 2023 has been 2554. Average total square footage has been 3526. So, you know, mid-size homes is very popular here in the village. So, you know, all different size homes, all different types of homes. Our codes enforcement guys are out constantly. You know, when you think about, they got 110 center lane miles to ride. So really that's 220 miles of streets that they're riding. And they're not just looking at homes that are under construction. They're looking at homes that are completed, have been there for years and stuff. So they're not just driving by looking at construction. They're looking for violations wherever they can. And right here, this line item is pretty impressive. When you look at violations found from April to June the 12th of 23, which is 185, just in that, you know, 2-month, more or less, time frame. A lot of violations that they are finding. And the money generated off of just those violations was almost $6,500. So those guys are out, they're finding things that people are not doing. They're making sure people are getting permits for things. So, you know, kudos to those codes enforcement guys.
The 6460 comes from re-permitting or not getting an original?
Originally not getting a permitting, or where they pulled a permit on a job site and they've had to reinstate, pay a reinstatement fee.
Right. I just wanted to make sure everybody understands. We still don't fine.
No, sir.
Okay.
Hey, Clayton, what would you say one of the number one violations is that they find?
Number one violations on, if you talk about jobs under construction, would probably be silt fence, you know, mud in the road. For other homes that's been there for years, you'll have a lot of violations of unkept yards, you know, excessive untidiness. So, and we have a lot of permits when we talk about the money generated. A lot of people, I don't think they're trying to sneak by. They just honestly didn't realize they needed a permit, and they'll build a deck or a fire pit or something like that, you know, and they find out they need to get a permit, and people will come in to get a permit. So. Any other questions? We'll move on to Public Works. Public Works. So, as you all know, village is 30-plus years old, and, you know, we as Public Works, we're always trying to find things that we can improve a bad situation. Safety is very important to us. You know, this intersection right here at Wallosey Way and Wallosey Lane, it's just 30-plus years old, and you can tell where the asphalt is busted, and you can see the white streaks in this asphalt. That's where trailers or cars and stuff are dragging in there. So we were evaluating that. We went out and we decided, all right, this is what it's going to cost us to do this in our normal street maintenance. And what we did was we talked to the people in the community, explained to them, you know, hey, we seen the concern. So we went in and we installed culverts in this area. We had to flush this culvert coming under the street out. We flushed that out. We added drainage culverts in there, tied everything together. You'll see, like right here on the right, that's a metal traffic-rated catch basin. So if traffic runs over that, it's not going to hurt it. So we put culverts in, put the catch basins in, compacted it with fill dirt, come in and added riprap and stuff to this intersection. So in this intersection, we raised that up about 3 feet to where people don't have that hole to drive off in. And we, you know, it's increased the safety of that intersection. It's amazing how many people just in Wallozia has called and thanked us for doing this because they've realized over the years that it needed to be done. So those are some of the projects we're looking at. Right here is another one, same situation. This is at the intersection of Chunlottie Way and Thedegwa Way. Where you're on Chunlottie Way, you'll take a right to come up Thedegwa Way. Tried to get a picture where you could see this, and that really doesn't give you a good representation. When you stand down there in that culvert, that's about 4 feet lower than the road. So we'll do the same thing. There's a home right there, as you can see on the right. We'll work with those property owners, but we'll come in here, we'll put a catch basin in there, put a grate on, traffic rated grate where traffic can run over it if for some reason somebody drives through there. As this one is, you can see the asphalt's busted, people's been dragging. So we'll raise that up and do away with that safety concern right there in that intersection. So we have some others that we're looking at in this situation and trying to take care of some of these things. It's been 30 years in the making. Right up the road from here is on part of Sequoia Road. This area looks just terrible, and you know, when the mowing service comes through, they come through and they mow, but then they have to come back and weed eat it. They sprayed it last year and it looked absolutely terrible. So it's not, I don't know why riprap was ever put in there. So we will go in and we will remove the riprap and we will put erosion mat down. We'll seed it and put erosion mat down and we'll get grass growing in that to where it can be mowed and maintained the way it should be, and the streets will look the way it should. So we just got some projects like that that are exciting that we get to see. This is the intersection right up here at Shoulder Road and Utsima. Hopefully with all this rain, we'll see the grass start growing soon. So just some of the projects that the street department guys are really working on. This is preparation for the PMM, the pavement preservation material that you all approved a meeting ago. This is just an example of one of the areas that we patched. We done a patch. This is crack sealing on the other side. Just some of the prep work we do before they come in. We don't want to spend a lot of money sealing these streets and then be all cracked up and broke up and stuff. So that's what we do. PMM is a polymer modified master seal. Turns asphalt black, you know, seal coating, and you know, some of the good things is it helps with the UV rays and you know, helps keep the flexibility in there and stuff like that, and it gives you a dark color. So that's the product we're using. We're excited about those, excited about the projects we're going to get to do this year. We will be doing all the neighborhood streets in Tokwa, not Tokwa Road, but the neighborhood streets in Tokwa.
About what time frame do you think?
We have, right now, we're scheduling to start July the 10th, but next week, there'll be maps with dates coming out saying Chunlottie Way will be done this day. So, and the plan is for it to go out in the telegram next Tuesday, and then they'll start putting flyers in everyone's mailbox, letting them know what day their street will be. So that gives you, you know, 2.5 weeks ahead of time where people can make plans. So we'll be doing those Tokwa neighborhood streets, Kahiti Clubhouse parking lot, Wellness Center parking lot, and a medical building parking lot. Those will be done. So we are working with the managers and directors in those facilities of the best time to do those. So, as it says, schedules will be coming out soon. Everybody will be notified, and it will be in the telegram. Streets for 2023 that we will resurface will be Kiowa Way, Kiowa Point. This section of Chota Road, if you notice right there where you turn into the yacht club and you continue on around, there's a bunch of patches through there. That mix that was put on there years ago is coming off, so it's delaminating. So we will go from right there about where you turn into the yacht club to where it loops back into Sequoia Road. So that section will be done. Chota Rec Center parking lot will be overlaid. Village Square parking lot will be overlaid. And like the others, those schedules will be coming out soon, and it will be put in the telegram also.
Clayton,
Yes, sir.
when you resurface, the last time we did it, we had engineers on site to measure the temperature of the mix going down, quality controls were in place. What do you plan to do here?
It will be the same thing. They will have, that will be required. You know, we'll require them to have that. Working, the engineers will report to us. So, to make sure our depths are correct and temperatures are correct. Any questions on that before we move to building maintenance?
Just one other question. As far as guarantees, warranties from the company putting it down, what liability do they have if we find we have spalling a year from now?
Anything within a year's time is under the warranty. So they will replace it to our satisfaction.
Clayton, my name's Harry Rucker. I saw some of your people in Topa area putting down the master seal. They skipped some areas of road. Is that because they're gonna tear that road up?
Well,
There's some areas where they patched all the cracks, and there's some areas where they didn't patch any cracks.
Press the button, boss.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you hear me now?
Yep, there we go.
I'm sorry, in the Token neighborhood, your people were putting down the master seal, I was watching them do it. There were some areas and some roads where they just skipped all the cracks, and I was wondering if they're gonna tear that road up and resurface it, or what they plan to do there.
no, I mean, if there's a huge, you know, depends on the cracking. If it's alligator cracking and something that can't be, you know, crack sealed, it will be cut out and patched. Other cracks that are, you know, fillable, that's not
Okay.
gonna cause a problem, will be crack sealed.
I'll send you an email where they're at.
Okay, that'd be great.
good. Okay.
Building maintenance, maintenance is an exciting, department. We are, someone made a, comment earlier about the type of employees that we have, the type of guys that we have in this area. And we have some very talented guys. You know, one of Caleb's, goals for 2023 was to start doing more of these projects in-house instead of contracting everything out. And that's what they've done. We've been blessed with a group of guys that are talented in sheetrock work and stuff and maintenance. And this is over at the Kahiti Clubhouse where, they went in, patching all the walls, patching the ceilings, done a lot of work around the vents in the ceiling, done a lot of patching. If you noticed before, whoever went in, they kind of patched and it looked bad, and they done painting, and they painted the electrical outlets and painted everything, and, you know, that's not acceptable work for us. So these guys went in and done a lot of work working on that project to get it to the standard that the village should be. You know, we should expect high quality in everything that we do, and I feel it turned out to be a good project. The elevator, y'all seen that the elevator has been, everything in this thing has been new, redone, everything's new, have a good product that will last us for years. So this is this floor. As y'all know, we come in and done a lot of wall work, ceiling work, changed the lighting out. If you notice, all the little round circles where the sprinkler heads used to hang down, the fire sprinklers used to hang down, they've been replaced with these. Every one of these were so out of date. So in this entire building, well, we got a couple more places that we're waiting on stuff, but all this has been upgraded, all new, to where we don't have to worry about them not working. And so that safety and making sure that we do everything we can to eliminate a fire has been one of our big goals. And that's what this was. I know y'all have seen this, read it, and that's what this is all about. I'm not going to read through all of it, but it's all about working with the fire department, working with staff. Chet's been involved in making sure all of our fire systems are working. You know, our exit lights, making sure they work. They should work 90 minutes after the power goes off. You know, we had a fire department, they come in with us, we'll shut a building down and completely shut everything down. And make sure all the safety lights are working. We time all the lights, make sure they're working for at least 90 minutes. So the fire department's been huge on working with us on that. So we didn't just do it one time. It'll be something we will continue to do. And that has been something that Chet has really supported and pushed to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure we're covered if we ever do have another fire.
No, we will never have another fire.
And
Don't
that-
tempt fate.
That is absolutely our plan, but if we do, we want to make sure we've got everything ready. You know, that everything is working to where we can get that fire out. So, couple projects, y'all will see that we got coming up that was in the budget for redoing the flat roofs here on the yacht club and re-roofing the POA building. Those are a couple projects we got going on. We're working on a new, fire suppression system at Choder Rec Center. That is, old. When we had it inspected, I mean, it's working, but it's not working to the extent that it should. You know, we're not real confident that it would do what it needs to do. It's old. When we had the inspection done, the guy said, you know, there's a lot of stuff looks like it would have been old and used when it was put in, back when the building was built. So we're working with PSAC. We've got this scope of work pretty close, ready to go out and moving forward with that. So that is something we're working hard on. ODOC, if you've been down there, ODOC has arrived. They have everything put together, floats on all the parts and pieces and stuff, ready to put it out in the water, float it into place, as soon as the weather breaks where they can get in there. Then we'll start doing, you know, we'll work with our electrical company, getting that in there, getting electric hooked up, doing the land abutment and all those things. We have done some clearing down there where we can see how many parking spaces we're gonna be able to have. So we have a bunch of added parking spaces to help with the parking issues down there. Just some projects that building maintenance have done. Kahidi Clubhouse first phase of renovation, we talked about that. Bunch of LED lighting change out throughout the village. Yacht Club patio lights. Village Square, they changed all those panels out on the porch, changed all those out. We've done a lot of painting and work over at the Kahidi Gatehouse, this renovation here, the elevator, a lot of landscaping projects, safety issues in all of our buildings, those roofs and all those things that we talked about. Divers inspections, we've been really good at getting the divers in here and diving our docks and making sure everything is okay, whether it's anchors or where things are bolted together, making sure we don't have any breakage or stressing or anything to where we can make sure we're protecting our investment on those. And we've replaced some PWC replacement and a lot of board rail replacement. Any questions on any of that? All right, water and sewer. So on water and sewer, you know, Jacobs Engineering is working on the design and stuff for the lift station that you all approved. So they're working on that. Down at Saloli Way, Yona Lane, Chattooga, if y'all remember 8 months ago, we had some issues down there. A bunch of valves were stuck and stuff like that. So we put in some new valves and working in that area. At the Tenassi Clubhouse, we moved a fire hydrant and everything, got everything out of where parking lot and building sites could possibly be, making sure we got that stuff out of the way. Sewer tanks for the year, we've installed 122 and 112 water meters.
Hey, Clayton, on the water meters, I'm assuming when we're putting in these new services, they're getting the new meters at that time?
Yes, sir. The new meters go in on your bills. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Just a couple other things. Ezra, you know, we had the IMGIS system. We changed over to Esri. And when we changed over to Esri, we worked with True North. True North is the IT company that helped us switch everything over, and they, with our contract with them, there's training in there, so my guys are working and training with True North on using this new Esri system. We've got well over 100,000 items entered into this thing, and we're still entering stuff in there weekly, and we use this thing all the time. It's going to be an amazing tool when we finally get everything the way we want it, but we continue to use it and continue to increase it.
Can you explain what that is? Because I don't think everybody knows.
Yes, it's a GIS system, and what it does, we can, say this Chattooga Drive, Slowly Way and Yona Lane, when we put these 3 valves in, it put the GIS coordinates in that system on that road. So if we want to know or say we're gone, and there's a new group of people in here, and they need to know where that valve is, and for some reason someone's covered it up, they can go on to Esri, and they can go to that valve, and that Esri system through the GIS will take them right to where that valve is. It can give them a location. And, we have a lot of stuff like that. We'll have a vacuum excavator that will come up for a funding request today. On that vacuum excavator, when that vacuum excavator cleans out those valve stacks, it'll count, and it exercises that valve, it'll count the turns, and it'll tell us, okay, that's a 6-inch valve, 6-inch line, or an 8-inch line, or a 10-inch line, and that will connect straight into our Esri system, and it'll update those lines and make sure when we go over to Pat White's house and we're looking at this valve, we can pull up on our system and it'll say it's a 6-inch line or a 4-inch line. So when you go out and you have a problem in this section, you don't have to think about, well, I wonder if that's a 6-inch line or 4-inch line. We automatically know, okay, this is a 4-inch line, so we need to load up all the material that we could possibly need for a 4-inch line. So you're saving time and guesswork.
And it's not just Public Works, right?
No, this will be anyone in POA can use,
Yeah,
any
It
organization,
relates
golf
to
or
boat
whatever.
docks, golf, recreation,
sir.
all of these assets can be put in there,
Yes, sir.
maintenance assets, yeah.
Yes, sir. Couple other things is, so we were looking at our overtime, call-out times, and from January to the end of April, for water and sewer, we were at like $87,000. And then I look at the other groups, like building maintenance and street departments, so we're a little over $100,000 in call-out time, and that's things that need to be addressed after hours. And Chet kind of touched on it, I think, but so get to looking at it, and it's like, well, at this pattern, we're looking at $300,000 and just call out overtime, throughout the year. So we need to address this, and so get to looking at it, and like 75 to 80% of this is going on from like 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So it's like, all right, we got to do something to address this. So we are in the process of putting together a second shift. Not hiring new people. We're going to move people that are trained in that. We'll have, the goal is to have 3 people on staff that can handle anything, any of the call-outs. And they will continue doing projects, So we've got a good plan. I'm excited about that. If we could if it happens that we can cut out 75%, it's a lot of money. I mean, for that first 4 months, that would have been roughly $75,000 that we would have eliminated. So something we're looking at trying to improve and do our due diligence and do a better job for the POA. One other thing before I close and I'll shut up. Really excited about this project. So this goes a lot of responsibility on Chet Pillsbury. So one day Chet looks at me and says, all right, Clayton, what are you going to do about this water infrastructure improvement? So give him a presentation of what we, working with PSAC, come up with. And I had emailed that to him. So a day or two later, whatever it was, I see Chet, and he looked at me and he said, that was not what I asked you on the email. That's not what I asked you for when I asked you about what you was going to do about water system improvements. And I said, okay. He said, what's your ideal? I said, Chet, no one's ever asked me my ideal. I said, but I'll tell you. So, explained my ideal to him, and I said, do you have a problem with me having our engineering group run this through our water model and see what happens? And he said, no, I don't have a problem. He said, if you think it'll work, and he encouraged me to do that. So kudos to him, and I appreciate that support. So, right now, if a lot of people knows, them water system improvement, infrastructure improvement, we were looking at like $13 million roughly in 2020 numbers. Okay, a lot of money. So, run my deal. This is something been talked about, but everyone was just kind of scared and nobody wanted to mention it. So I had Jacobs Engineering run elevated storage tanks in our model. And they come back and it'll work. It'll work. And we as PSAC, we've been meeting with them now, been talking with them, and I'm not gonna get into a lot of detail. We'll be coming back as Public Works and PSAC. We'll come back to y'all next month in the July board meeting with a presentation of cost and what we'd like to do. But it is major savings. And the huge advantage to it is, besides the money, is with the other process of putting all the lift stations and booster pumps and all this stuff in, there was a lot of ongoing maintenance for year after year after year. With this elevated storage tank, you don't have all that maintenance year after year. And the tank can go in our existing tank site up on the hill, so, and that will take care of our problem. So I think y'all be really, really excited when y'all see the numbers and stuff. Do you have any questions?
So where?
You know where our existing water tank is, up on the hill by?
On the Wellness Center?
Yes, sir.
So another one?
Yes, an elevated one. It would be about 66 feet tall. That means the bottom of it would be about the same height as the existing tank, and then about 22 feet above that.
Because, as I recall, that was the initial recommendation on the north end too.
A tank, yes.
In the Coyote neighborhood, but they were concerned from a resident's perspective on how it would look, right? I'm kind of looking at Ken here too, because I think he was involved with that. So I guess we're kind of changing our strategy if we would go this way, except for we're not in a residential part of the village.
And just roughly throwing out some numbers, we're talking 13 million in 2020 numbers to looking at $6 million.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, or less, in 2023 numbers, so that's huge.
Yeah, and to clarify, that's 13 million for water projects, and we still have, what, 7 million
Yeah.
for the sewer projects?
Yes, sir.
Of which the 5.4, I believe, for the current project that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Of which 2.1 is will be covered by the state.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey Clayton, one quick question. We talked a lot last year about I&I. Have we had any progress along that?
Yes, sir. We have had a couple of things we're doing to work on I&I. And what we're doing is we're finding some of those places that every time we have a big rain event and they're going off, we're going and doing some things to those. And we are making some progress on those. We're still trying a couple of different things to where we can make sure, because there's not just an absolute fix for every one of them. Because when you dig a 9 by 9 hole in places, and that's where most of it is on the old 9 by 9 tanks, so you either got tank settling or tank sinking or, line sinking, so a lot of different things, but, Kevin has had his guys digging up some of those and fixing some, so.
Okay.
There's a gentleman back here with a question. Up to the mic, up to the mic. Please, so people can hear you.
Is this new system, is that in addition to the tank that's already there?
Yes, sir.
Is there going to be a necessity of increasing the diameter, let's say, of the line coming out of there to allow that?
No, sir. That is what is so impressive about this tank. In the other scenario, we were going to have to do a lot of line upsizing and stuff. This will not. From where we got the line going in, line going out, there'll be some rerouting to the new tank, but there will not be any upsizing.
Well, is it going to be a separate feed line then? Coming
Yes.
out?
Yes, what we would eventually do is the old tank would just be shut off. We would no longer use it. So,
The other thing to keep in mind, there's a big difference between 13 million and 6 million when it comes to, well, there's a big tower sitting behind my house. We all have to begin to look at things from a point of, is it worth it?
and we'll have some drawings and
Yes.
everything, of it when we do a presentation next month, if we can be on
Yeah,
your agenda.
and just to clarify for everybody, this is just in the quote idea stage. This hasn't been vetted yet through
This-
DSAC and everything.
I heard someone on the committee earlier say, what about doing our due diligence? Someone made that comment earlier, and that's what we're doing. We're
Yeah.
just doing our due diligence and looking at every possible pathway of taking care of this. Because when we come to the board and say, this is what we would like to do, we can feel as a Public Works and Peace Act that we have looked at every alternative possibly out there.
Okay. Other question?
Yeah, I have a question. This is in regards to ACC matters, and it's not directed specifically to Clayton, but at the last ACC meeting, I was rejected for a miscellaneous permit, and I believe Chet and Pat were at that meeting, and they were going to discuss that here at today's board meeting, or bring it up at today's board meeting. So I just wanted to, since it falls under Clayton's preview, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, since I was named, I'll answer the question. We approved everybody but yours. Kidding. Anyway, no, we're going back through, it is all part of the additions to the Red Book, and the board has not voted on it. Yeah, whatever color. Anyway. I know. So, the Blue Book. And maybe a slight spoiler alert, but I believe that ultimately yours might be approved by the board, but we'll see. So the answer is we haven't voted on it yet.
Anything else?
Thanks, Clayton. Next up is Simon. And team. Nan, I guess.
So Nan D'Amato, Chair of Parks and Recreation. It was one of our goals this year to update the Parks and Recreation charter, and we have done that. I think it's been sent to everyone. And primarily what we changed is going from Recreation Advisory Committee to Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. There were not a lot of other changes. I can go through where the changes are if you think that's the most effective way to do it. Or maybe I should point out things that aren't where it just went from recreation to Parks and Recreation. On the second page, there were a couple places where after facilities, green space was added, since we're working a lot on green space this year. That's in a couple places. And the big change that isn't just Parks and Recreation is in V, committee structure, in A. And it's the second or third sentence in, at the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Director, the committee shall by majority vote elect a chairperson and vice chairperson for a term of office expiring at the end of the year for which the officer is elected to serve. And the reason we changed that is we looked at the changes of membership in the committee and decided that in most instances, when we're voting on the new chairperson, it's half the committee may be leaving, so they may or may not want to even make a recommendation. And new members, if we wait, this year was unusual, we waited until the new year, and we had a lot of new committee members, and we just decided that it wasn't to Simon's benefit to have people that weren't on the committee and didn't know the structure to be the ones recommending committee members. So we changed it to have Simon have some say in who is on his committee. And that's really the only change. Everything else is just, it's gone from recreation to Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you.
There's actually one other place, in the copy I got anyway, that it still says Recreation Director, and that's in Section 5A, second line. So that should be Parks and Recreation Director as well.
Okay, that, you're right. That has not been changed. We can update that. Okay, any questions?
Okay, any other questions on the actual charter? Can I have a motion to approve? Pat?
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and second to approve the revised charter for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the revised charter, please raise your right hand. Pass 6-0. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Honors Awards appointments. So for those of you that don't know, we have this Honors Awards process in place. It's effective every other year, so it'll be effective again this year. And this is to basically nominate the people on that committee. So at this point, we have 3 nominations, correct, Beth? So we have Carla Johnson, Bill Kep, and Sue English Kovar. So at this point, I'd like a motion to approve these 3 people as appointed to this committee.
To approve the appointment of Carla Johnson, Bill, what was Bill's last name?
Kep? That's how I'm saying.
And Sue English Kovar, I know you. To the Honors Awards Committee for 2023.
Okay, it's been moved and second to accept these 3 people as on this committee, on the Honors Awards Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0 passed.
Marty, I will add real quick that we are needing one more member. If anyone is interested, they can email me. So we'd like to have 4.
Okay.
Do they need specific qualifications?
Just to be open-minded, that part of their preview is to review nominations, and we get a lot of really good nominations of a lot of good people, and so they basically have to read them all and come up with a winner. So that's really the only one. And then they will have to public speak, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is the May Finance Review. Mickey?
Another good month for the POA. So we can see from here on the balance sheet, the biggest thing I want to point out is change in our cash. We've generated about $2.5 million thus far in '23. We moved another $1 million out of operating into our reserve account in the month of May. We worked to maximize the earnings potential of those funds. So good movement, good process, good progress on what we're trying to do from a cash perspective. Not a whole lot changed within the rest of the financials. Same with the liabilities. This schedule is what we provide each month to show the cash, which is that 2.4, almost 2.5 million that we've increased. But the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that as a result of the audit, and they pointed it out, and I apologize that I missed it, but the Welcome Center note with UCB is a variable interest rate note, and currently is at 7.5%. We owe $288,000 on it. we're earning about 5.5%, so we're losing about 2% from a cash perspective on our investment. And so I wanted to ask the board if they were interested, and I would recommend that we go ahead and pay down this note since we're losing 2% on our money.
How much do we still owe on it?
$288,000.
What's the finance committee recommend?
They thought we should move forward with it. Yep. It's not a lot of money. If we're going to be going back to UCB for some additional funding, either on TOC or on other projects, it makes sense perhaps to eliminate one of these notes just as a relationship with them, trying to keep things intact. Before we pay it, I will go back to them and suggest that we are considering paying it off, and if they want to voluntarily reduce that for us to make it equitable for us to keep, that might be a good option as well. But I have a feeling they'll say thank you, but no thank you, and let us go on down the road. But I do think it's a good option for us to consider to eliminate. It's about $6,000 a year, I think that 2% adds up to.
So are you to the point that you have a request for the board, or you want to pursue that other option first?
I don't think it's likely, so I would recommend that we go ahead and make this change. Would like permission from the board to do so.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to retire the Wellness Center debt post haste.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to retire the Welcome Center debt since it's at 7.5%. Any discussion?
Just a question, Mickey, that 8/21/25, that's a balloon payment date, or is that a?
Yes, those two notes with the asterisk are just note that we have some maturity dates, and those are not payoff dates, those are balloon dates. So nothing coming up this year or next, but in '26, we've got some things that are happening. The golf lease will spin out, and we'll have to see what we're going to do with that. And the CC acquisition note will come up for renewal as well. My guess is that UCB will be glad to renew that, but I doubt they'll renew it at 3.25%.
Okay, with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of retiring the Welcome Center debt, please raise your right hand. Steve, are you voting on this one?
Paying off the welcome.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, 6-0, it's passed.
Very good. Thank you very much. Financials for the month, again, pretty positive. We're $333,000 above our budget from a revenue perspective, $745,000 over the prior year. On the cost of sale line, as was mentioned in the prior months, there's some tank costs that have hit that we really didn't capture in the budget. And as you can see, the cost of sale in comparison to last year are comparable. So there was a budgeting issue and how we did that, so the variance there looks farther off than it really is. We're at 85% on the gross profit line. We're slightly better than prior year. Wages, we had the conversation about the prior year, but in regards to our budget, we're $65,000 ahead of budget on our salaries. Costs are below what we had budgeted, and $31,000 from a benefits perspective, so we're about $96,000 to the good on that line.
So why are the salaries so much off of where the budget was?
Any budget, you have turnover of positions and
understand
those
that.
types of things, so we didn't.
So is that what you're telling me, is it's due to turnover and open positions?
I'd have to go do some more research, but I know that's a part of it.
Because if it's due to that, then that's permanent savings.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't anticipate that this is going to turn around and we'll lose this by year end. That's a true statement.
Okay.
On the total expenses line, and this is total expenses excluding salaries and benefits, we have some items that are $765 better than what we had budgeted, $275,000 better than last year. And in that budget, there are several things that have been factors in the prior months, but I wanted to repeat them as well. We're $459,000 ahead of our maintenance budget. Some of that is in projects that have just gotten delayed. We don't think that that's permanent savings yet. but it's certainly on track where we could see some of that. Operating costs were a little bit ahead. Some of the general expenses are a little bit lower. Services, our audit fees have not booked yet. We should get that final invoice this month. Insurance costs are up, and so that's negatively impacting those numbers. And our general expenses are about where they were. So it puts us at 2.9 million at that surplus line, so about 300,000 greater than last year. Some of that on the budget side is what I talked about up above it. Down in the other income and expense lines, there's a few things I want to point out. We had some gains on some sales of some lots. The interest income, as we budgeted, I booked that as in 3% each month. But as you get into the investments and you start looking, we had a larger proportion of them at 1% or less. And so while we hit the year, we'll end up with about 5%. So we'll hit our budget. It's just a little bit skewed on how it's booked on these periods. So not too worried about that, but it is something I wanted to point out. Lastly, that last line on there, the reserve and maintenance, we are under budget substantially by $1 million. And most of that is from, on the capital reserve budget that we did. There were a series of projects that were maintenance related that have not started and are a little bit behind. And so the quick summary is we've got 120,000 on court resurfacing at the Wellness Center. There's a road plan that is underway, but it hasn't really hit the P&L yet, was $500,000. The roof for both this facility and the POA is about $160,000. And we'll talk about those in the request because some of that's there, and there's some good news on that. The Choder sprinkler system is $100,000, and the commercial site parking lot's $150,000. So all of those are on the task of being done. Some of them are logistics, trying to find people that would actually do the work and get out here to do that. I know that's especially been an issue for the court resurfacing. I talked to Clayton and his team, and all of the projects are being proceeded as quickly as they can, but there are just some logistical problems in reaching those. So that $1 million, while it looks like we're great, those will come back and will be expended as the period goes on.
The commercial center parking lot, that ultimately will be funded by the renters, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have an increase in their CAF fees, or CAM fees. That will take into that. Any questions on the numbers for the month? It is always good to meet you with good, positive numbers. POA is in good standing, generating good cash, paying down its debts. And we have some work to do on catching up some of these projects, but otherwise we're in good shape.
Assuming you're not going to go through the individual departments, which is
That's-
okay with me.
Yes, that's been the direction, to limit the conversations here.
That's good.
Each of you should have received that information from a detailed perspective, but for the conversations here, we'll keep it at a higher
I
level.
realize you got a bunch of balls in the air. Take a look at Tenaci's expense, because it's still getting allocated utilities and taxes, insurance, and other items for Tenaci under
Okay.
the food services. And it's
Okay.
probably just because you got an allocation model in your system for closing, and it's just putting money in them.
We'll look at it. Thank you. We did notice on the TOQA cost of sales, there was a little bit higher this month, so we're going to back and look at that one. And there's a couple other smaller things. The water consumption, that's always been a question, and I did want to touch on that as well. We had the new meters put in place, and so at the end of June, the watering season is kicking on, and we should be able to run some comparisons between prior year and this year to see what potential savings are. Hopefully to have those discussions and prove that the new meters are succeeding what they're doing. We'll also present some cost and variance and volume analysis because we did the new rate structure. And we want to see the impacts of what that's going to have on some of our numbers as well. So all of that information will be presented next month, and we'll be able to look at that in preparation for what we want to do from a budgeting perspective.
And then you ought to share the good news on your suspended accounts. They're down to 81 at the end of May, and you ended the year at 119.
Correct,
And your homes suspended are still hanging in there about 12.
correct. And that information, I think, used to be a part of the presentation, and we kind of got away from it. And I do think that it should be included in what we send you in detail. And we'll probably come back with a shorter version of some of that, just to touch on those.
You don't need all.
Correct. You don't need all the detail, but certainly need some highlights in there.
It's good news.
And so just as a reminder to all property owners, the detail reports are still available out on the website, correct?
We have not published the FAC.
They're at the FAC meeting.
They're on the SharePoint for our FAC members, but they never been published.
Okay.
Everything you see here is published, though.
Everything here will be published, that's correct.
And by the way, does any board members have any comments on the change of visual on the screen so that we can read all the numbers and that's.
Yeah, I think what's important is to point out our cash positions like you've done, our debt like you've done, and what you're showing, I believe, is the right amount for this meeting.
You know, I always will bring up any unusual items, anything that's there. Same thing on the board as you are reviewing. If you see anything, have questions, as Steve did, raise those, and I'll make sure that we bring them up as part of this conversation as well.
I may have missed it. What assets did you sell?
Those were lots. I don't have that detail.
Oh, the gain or loss on sale, that's your lots?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We don't typically budget for that, and as a result, it usually will be shown there.
Well, was that part of the driver of the reduction in AR?
Yes. Some of those that were past due, we were able to collect them either through sale or through foreclosure. Some were just cash, and they paid up and caught them, the accounts.
Please come to the mic, please. Well, so the people online can hear
Everybody
you.
online needs to be able to hear this.
The one on the right, yeah, you got it.
How do these numbers play into preparation for the roads, sewers, et cetera, on a long-term basis?
So the roads, sewers, and all of that are capital nature, and so those expenditures will come out of the reserve funds. Typically, the cash that's available will be added to that, but the expectation is that they'll be paid out of reserve funding.
And that was the point earlier when you heard Clayton talking about the difference in those two water projects, the 13 million. That's part of that roads and sewer projects that we're looking at. And all of this is operational outside of the reserves, but we're also looking at and reporting on those functions that are coming, the capital improvements that are coming. Microphone, please. Sorry.
Which line item then on this, what we're looking at here, is going to go into the reserves?
So any surplus that's shown on here, so year-to-date, we're at a little over 2 million on the net income surplus line, 3 million when you add back the depreciation and amortization. So, and as we had shown back over here, there's been about 2.5 that's gone back into our reserve funding.
Okay, so the total reserve fund number is?
18 million is in our reserve account. We started the year at 15.5.
And the road sewers, CapEx is going to cost what?
Don't have those right at my fingertips.
50 million, 100 million?
Oh, it's not that much.
I'm
No,
looking,
it's
5 million?
I think your capital's 3, isn't it?
For this year, I think there was about 3 million. And again, in our initial budget that we did, it was a 9-year budget where we expended funds over a longer period of time. And I think some of what Clayton has proposed is saving from a longer term as opposed to a single year.
So it seems like we're pretty well reserved with regards to those. No, we're not?
Do you have your slide which says the reserve funds?
No.
Okay, so that's a schedule you may want to flash up there. there is a schedule of what's needed in the reserves by line item, how much is forecasted to be spent this year versus what's actually spent, what's the remaining balance. So this ties into the budget period, but there is a total reserve fund analysis that Mickey has, he just hadn't put it up here.
So if the board would like, I can certainly include those 2 pages.
I'd have them in your back pocket, so if a property owner has questions with regard to reserves, you can throw it up there to show the detail, because I don't think you've seen it, I'm assuming. So it's available out there, it's just he doesn't have it in the slide deck.
Yes.
Right here.
Prior months, you've shown that. It's the
Correct.
reserve fund, or it's a reserve schedule over like the next 5, 8, 9 years.
So I started showing a pretty broad list of schedules, and we were trying to pare it back, and as we did, it got culled out of that, but we certainly can keep it in there.
Also, the budget book is online on the finance page. You can look at the full budget, which has that schedule in there.
That schedule was created.
Can everyone hear Beth, by the way? Yeah, we're good? Okay, just making
So
sure.
that schedule that we're talking about was created to show the board, one, that we are tracking all of the capital expenditures, how much has been approved by the board, how much we paid out year to date. There's a few of them we've culled back and noted as being canceled where we decided we're not going to expend some funds. And then there's a few others that we will gain some amounts from that.
And what I'd like to point out, because Phil Brenner's here from Long Range Planning too, is that one of the goals from the Long Range Planning Committee is to be sure that major capital items that are in the long-term plan are also reflected in the 10-year budget.
Yeah.
They are not today, for the most part. What's in there today are numbers like for capital expenditures for roads, for water, and things like that, the things that you're aware of. But as far as anything new that the Long Range Planning Committee might have in their plans has not been incorporated into the finance budget, but that is part of the goal for this year.
Yeah, be wise for us to go through in the budget process to mirror into that, tie it back to the longer
Yeah.
periods.
That's the.
Last year, we were more focused with the single year. I mean, we listed everything that was in those out years, but we didn't give a lot of conversations to those. They're more placeholders, I thought, than they were factuality, but certainly something we want to get to. And as we start building those long-range cash flow models, we'll need to be keeping those in there as well.
Do you have a present value number of the requirements for the roads and the sewers?
I don't think that I have done a present value calculation up to this point.
That might be very helpful.
We'll
No?
consider that.
I mean,
Well, part of the.
I mean, I know it's somewhat of a guess, but at least you have maybe a ballpark.
So
on it.
just as a high level, there is like $1 million in the budget every year for road maintenance. And Clayton can answer that much better than I can.
And I can tell you from the 2023 budget, we've got about $8 million coming out of the reserves. And we're funding it pretty close to about $8 million.
Between the interest and the
And
contributions,
this all
it
ties
should
back
cover.
to our asset study, our replacement costs, the reserves study that was done last year. So it all ties back to that.
Yeah.
And what we have here, and again, he'll have it in his back pocket next month, it shows what we plan to pull out of reserves, what goes into reserves, and right now for 2023, we're just basically going to push. We're just treading water right now.
Correct.
We do have a 10-year plan on roads of what we want to do and an estimated cost for 10 years. So that, we do have that.
So moving forward, we do have some capital funding to request to be made this period. There's 4. The roof repairs at the Yacht Club originally was budgeted at $80,000. That quote and the one for the POA office as well was a rough estimate that was received back in August and September of last year as they were planning to build the budget. Now that they're here and they're looking at the work and they're giving a firmer quote, we can see that there's some substantial savings that we're going to get from both of these. The yacht club is the flat roofs that are here. It's going to come in at $17,580, so we should receive a savings on this capital project for about $62,000. There's a valve exciser, which Clayton mentioned earlier, which is a piece of equipment that they'll use to test and clean out some of these valves that's out there. It's right at the $85,000 amount that was budgeted. The HOA roof came in substantially less, so we should get about a $35,000 pickup on that one. And the last item on there is a series of HVAC replacements that they anticipate replacing in the year. The first one has come up for us right now. It's about an $8,000 repair. But rather to come back to you every time we need an HVAC repaired, we wanted to make sure that we presented this full $90,000 and let you approve it, and then we will keep our cost within that $90,000 budget. If there's ever an inkling that something would go beyond that as we're expending the cost, and it is going to be captured in that schedule that Steve was alluding to, we'd be able to track all of the costs that's related to that.
So every month that you spend something, or 2 months from now, you're at least going to, by courtesy, tell us that it was spent.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
And on that.
and indeed keep a running total to
Right.
make sure you don't exceed the 90.
Right. On that capital schedule that Steve was referring to, and I really do wish I had it, it would be listed and all of the expenditures to date would be captured. And so you can see where we're at in relation to that budget.
Right.
So for the roof repairs on the yacht club, that's basically a CEO call. And on the administration building roof, it also is a CEO call, other than, what do you expect for the OSB and fascia board replacement? That could put it over 50 grand. And if it does, then the board really has to speak on that.
I think that was one of the reasons why we brought it here, is because it's a border report. It very well could be over that. Go ahead, Clayton.
Yeah, you're correct. That's why we did. We wanted y'all to approve this, but in the contract that Jeff is writing up, it will make an allowance per board usage if the OSB has to
So
be
it's going to
replaced.
exceed 50 grand.
It could, yes.
And what would be the upper limit so that the board can actually approve something?
We don't know. I mean, you don't know until you get the shingles off of it. You
No,
know,
we can't approve it. You got to give me a number.
Well, you have an $85,000 budget that has been pre-approved, and we would never go over that $85,000.
So then just go for the 80,000. If we go under it, we go under it, and we'll report back on what we spend. The 80,000 is what I would refer to
Well,
unquestionably
the
the
overall
high
budget's
end.
85,000.
Yeah, 85, whatever that number
So,
was we originally budgeted.
I guess we'll just go through a series of these and, we don't have to worry about the yacht club, that's up to you. On the vacuum excavator and exerciser, or valve exerciser, the motion's to approve the expenditure of $84,930.39 for a vacuum excavator and valve exerciser funded from reserves.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to spend $84,930 on the valve exerciser. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0 passed.
The administration building roof would be to approve the expenditure of $85,000 to replace the POA admin building roof and gutters funded from reserves.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to spend with a upper limit of $85,000 for the replacement of the admin building roof. Any discussion?
Yeah, the only discussion is, the understanding is we're starting at 49.8. There'll be some miscellaneous extra charges for boards, et cetera, and you ought to keep it pretty well, much lower than what we're approving you for.
That would be the expectation, Steve.
Everything will be documented. Every board that is replaced will be pictured.
It's similar to what you did at the wellness, at the wellness center.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it goes smoother than that one.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0 passed.
And the final one would be to approve the expenditure of $90,000 for the planned replacement of HVAC units in 2023, funded from reserves.
Is that a spend, or is that just the max limit on the contract?
That's the max limit.
Max limit.
Yeah. Second.
Been moved and second to spend for the upper limit of $90,000 on HVAC replacements for 2023. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0 pass.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we're to the other portion of the meeting. Does anybody have any others?
Well, you've got one.
Yes, I'll have one. Simon, do you want to come up? Get you at the end.
Hi, Carla, the president of our Thomas Tellico Foundation, had a request for the board. Anytime we have naming rights, it needs to go through the board. And those who aren't aware, it is a 501c3 foundation, which is alternate funding for projects outside of the current budget. The note we have from Carla is, on behalf of the board, please consider the following request. Do y'all have that copy by chance of what they're asking for? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
All right, so what they're asking for, and this came from Mr. Rick Blau had brought this up as we were after a Thomas Tellico function.
By the way, I did this after several Manhattans.
It was a great idea. Yeah. And we went with that. The idea was to put naming rights on the bar stools, and the idea is it's $1,000 for a period of 5 years with the right to renew. Each will be labeled with a plaque not to exceed 6 square inches and placed on the stool based on the specific stool design. The message on each plaque must be approved by Thomas Tellico Foundation and the TVPOA Board. And that was the first one.
So does that give the person with the plaque exclusive right to the stool?
That would be up to the board to decide. I wouldn't want to try to manage that expectations for folks.
See, I'm going to buy one for Pat, and Pat's going to buy one for me.
So how many bar stools are we talking about?
There's
roughly?
16 downstairs. I'm not sure, like in Tokwa, Kahidi, I mean, you're looking at quite a few bar stools.
Okay.
He's probably about 10.
Have you sold any yet?
We haven't been given permission to
I
put
know,
naming
but
rights.
if you
We've got one.
People waiting.
Rick says he
Rick
says, as soon as we
I'm
do
in.
this, I asked him earlier if he's bought his checkbook, because if it gets approved, we'll be asking for $1,000.
You know, that's what
Okay.
I've always wanted in life, to be able to bring my 7 granddaughters in and show them my bar stool.
Well, I have an opportunity
Well, see, I
for you
don't
today
have
then, Pat. You can buy 16 of them if you'd like.
So before you go on, let's just go ahead and put a motion on the floor for this one. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the naming rights request from Thomas Tellico to add all bar stools at all TVPOA locations to the naming rights inventory. The board will approve the final language and design.
It's been moved and second to approve naming rights for bar stools throughout Tellico Village, basically $1,000 per, and it will be for a period of 5 years. Any further discussion?
I'm just curious how you come up with $1,000. How'd that number come about?
That was my third Manhattan.
Which Bill might have been paying for.
I mean,
I don't know, I'm just saying.
we did the same thing at a country club I belonged to, but for the men's grill, the captain's chairs, then it was like $250 a chair. And the cost of the chair plus $250, but I just was curious how Rick thought $1,000 was the right
He
number, I
talked me
guess.
into it.
Well, sir, that's a good question, because on naming rights, there's no specific formula for it. You might see an arena or a stadium that might go for $1 million, and another one might go for $500,000. For example, we have benches here that they're $5,000. In Farragut, $2,500. Pigeon Forge, $2,000. Knox County is like $1,500. They're all different. It's what the market may bear for that, and you try it out with some. That's one reason you go for 5 years. After 5 years, you might find out, hey, they're probably worth $2,000, or hey, that might have been too much. But so what you do is a best practice. What's everybody else been doing? So you look around the country. What do other people do in these kind of things, and we come up with that.
I think the bottom line is that it puts money into Timeless Tellico that can then be used for projects throughout the village.
Absolutely.
That's the whole idea. Yeah.
The second one is,
Before you go there, let's call for a vote. All in favor of
The bar stools.
the bar stools for $1,000 for 5 years? Pass 6-0. Okay, go ahead.
thank you very much. We'll put it to good use, I promise. The second one was the foundation requests approval to put a bench outside of the Kahidi Clubhouse, similar to what we have right here at the Yacht Club and also at the Wellness Center. And the idea is we want to promote the awareness of the naming right opportunities and the foundation within Tellico Village over at Kahidi. That was the second one.
And what was the cost on the bench, 5,000?
They're $5,000. It's 15 years for an individual and 7 years for a business.
But this one is just to put out there as a promotional.
Well, people could sit in it, I guess.
Yeah, people use, just like we have the
But I mean-
Wellness Center, we have two benches that people use. The RAC from 2020 actually purchased that one. The other one's for sale. There's one down here that's for sale. We got several outside the Yacht Club that's been purchased. The idea is bring Kahidi into the fold to start with that. People will use the bench, yeah.
Okay, so you'll set it out there and then search for somebody to purchase the naming rights.
Yes, and we'll put the
Yeah.
exact same thing that we have right down here at the Yacht Club. If you
Right.
go downstairs, which is for sale, by the way, on your way out, take a look at the bench. But it has the contact information if you'd like to purchase.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Yeah, the motion is to approve the naming rights request from Timeless Tellico to add a bench outside the Kahidi Clubhouse to the naming rights inventory. The board will approve the final language and design.
Second? We have a second with Pat. Any further discussion? With that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of having a bench at Kahidi for sale for naming rights? Please raise your right hand. 6-0 passed.
Thank
So-
you very much.
Before you go away, Simon, would you like to just kind of formally inform everybody of the is it a donation, I guess, by Henry Cullen?
Yeah, there was
The-
$25,000 that came from Loudoun County. Is that what we're talking
From
about?
Loudoun County, yeah, not
Yeah.
specifically
I
Henry.
don't have the specifics on, I know that was in the works and that's coming, but it's putting a partnership with Loudoun County and identifying Thomas Tellico as a good place to be donating some money. And part of that came from, we had a gala, and he was involved in that and saw what we were about.
So I guess I just wanted to point out that Henry is continuing to do things to help out the village, and that was another example of it.
That's a huge one. And thank you all for the continued support on behalf of Thomas Tellico. Thank you very much.
Do we have any more others from the board? Anybody from here?
Unless I'm misinformed, and I don't think I am, there is a leash law. And we have two dogs. Our dogs are always on the leash whenever they are out. But we see numerous cases of dogs with their owners that are not on the leash. So my question is, how does the leash law get enforced?
Loudoun County Police.
Well, there's actually not a leash law in Tennessee. The rule is you have to have your dog under control.
That is correct.
So there's no leash law.
There is not.
There is not.
Okay, I stand corrected. First time this year. No,
Nice try, Don.
Anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Adjourn.